My name is Sarah Eskowitz, and I'm one of the earliest members of the Calvert Arc, which became the Arc of Southern Chesapeake. My husband and I moved to Calvert County the week after we were married. He was an oceanographer for the Navy and worked in Randall Cliffs, and I was an elementary school teacher and taught at the Calverton School in Huntingtown.
And you became a mom in Calvert County?
Yeah, 2 years after that, our son Bill was born, and life changed. For me, the change was not working and learning all about babies and living on my own, because at that time, my husband went back up to New York State for his advanced degrees. And so the baby and I would move from Calvert County back up to my parents or the in-laws in New York, and then back down to Calvert County. So I had an adorable little guy who adored people, was as cute as he could be. And as we were going back and forth, I kind of lost track of developmental milestones. So we had a lovely, lovely infancy, and, it was when he became what was supposed to be a toddler that we realized, oh no, something is absolutely not right here. And that's when we had the doctor's appointments and the examinations and everything, and discovered that he was a little guy who had a whole wide range of significant disabilities. So they're all kind of characterized under cerebral palsy. And obviously, he's 54 years old today. He still has the same disabilities, but we deal with them. He deals with them in a pretty magnificent way. He's still a very, very, very social person. He gets around with a walker and a wheelchair. He is nonverbal, but he uses basic signing, and he is the best charade player you've ever known. He gets people's attention from across a crowded room. They will come over and ask him what he wants. And he once bummed a cigarette from a guy at a bar who was sitting on the far side, and apparently he had been miming smoke. And this guy got up off his chair, came all the way around the bar, looked at me and said, "Is it okay if I give him a cigarette?" Oh, no, thank you for asking. But that's the power of his determination to communicate and connect with people. And it's that connection that just makes life a joy.
I know you love your son, but I want to go back to you because you became a parent during really groovy times, so to speak, 70s.
That's right.
Women had to stay at home to raise the kids if they could afford to. And it's very different than today's standards. A lot of parents are two-job, if not more job families, dealing with the cost of just keeping a roof over the head. And it must have been kind of interesting for you because you probably grew up with one set of ideals of what it would be like to be a parent. And then, well, suddenly you had a challenge. And then I know people are really pissed off when I say that because parenting is a joyful thing, even if your child has a disability.
Of course it's joyful. That's the one half of it. But everyone knows that parenthood includes huge challenges, disagreements, problems. This is life. We work them out. It's all how you work them out that makes each family unique. But there have always been challenges to families, and there continue to be today. We were just at a slightly earlier stage there in the information. We were a little bit unusual because both my husband and I, when we were in high school and college, worked in institutions for people with mental disabilities, physical disabilities, and intellectual disabilities. So we were aware of what was out there, and we worked in some that were okay, but you wouldn't ever want to live there yourself. And I worked in one where you wouldn't want anyone to live there. So we were very aware of the real problem of all of the disability funding going to institutions, which were doing the best, but the model just didn't work with large groups of people. So we knew there had to be something else. And that's the point at which we ended up having a baby who clearly was going to need a lot of the services that we had seen provided in an institutional setting. And we knew that that was not going to be our family. So what's next? And in Southern Maryland, there wasn't a next. I think my first couple of years of advocacy were basically saying, you're telling me that this wonderful new center, the Great Oaks Center, was built exactly for your son. And I said, no, it's not right for him, and he is never going to live there. But what else do you have to offer me? And they said, why? I mean, it's for him. That's who it was designed for. I said, no, you're missing something. You're telling me that as a child, he can't live anywhere else but in this institution. There's something missing. So that was the very, 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 very early days where it was institution or none. In Southern Maryland, it was none. And that's where the advocacy started, because there was the proposed Southern Maryland Center. And that was to be a small institution serving St. Mary's and Calvert County. And if the funding went to this mini institution, the mini institution would be in Charles County, and it would not be close to home. And it would still be an institution, a larger than a family-sized home. And we were becoming clear that a family-sized home of some kind is what was needed. So in the early days, we were advocating for no institution, even though we were told, if you do not accept this institution, there will be no funding coming. We said, okay, no funding for the institution. We'll have to start from scratch and make a case for the desirability of funding for community-centered programs and services. And when the push for the Southern Maryland Center was successful, that was about our most thrilling time, because it meant that the state legislature saying no money for this mini institution, let's look at what kind of funding you can provide within each county for the smaller homes and services. That was the breakthrough.
Do you remember the name of the legislators that you had to convince that sometimes mother and father really do know best when it comes to an individual son? And
early on, it was our delegate, Tom Reimer, and he was very, very dubious of the feasibility, the desirability of small community homes. And he told us we were wasting our time. I assure you that later on, he made quite a turnaround, and he became one of our strongest supporters. And I think that's true with a lot of the legislators, because not many people had experience with disabilities, especially significant disabilities. And so they would take the word of, in that time, I don't know if it's still called the same thing, the Mental Retardation Administration, which is the one that would propose how the funding would be used. And so they accepted that their state agency knew what were appropriate services for the people in the community. And that's the agency with which we had very significant differences.
I bet.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants their piece of the pie, and nobody wants to give it up. But you're not talking about money. You're talking about having a small, more homey, comfortable place that would not overwhelm a child to live in.
Yes, exactly. And a place where that child knows there is someone available to that child. You aren't always wiping your child's nose, but there's proximity. The ratio of staff to the individual to the individuals who live in a home is so important. And so many activities are not possible once you get past a critical size. And the larger you get, the fewer of the home type activities are going to be successful. Today, my son lives in a supported home environment with a good deal of support. I mean, his needs are lifelong. He has 5 housemates, 3 of them are men and 2 of them are women. And I just love seeing him hug a housemate who is just having a hard time and is anxious. Seeing him care for someone else and reach out to help him is just great. But likewise, seeing him tease a staff person warms my heart because I was that person for so long. And to see him accept a staff person and have a relationship that includes humor is just priceless. So you get so much when you get down to the smaller sizes, just like we all know in our own homes, our own families.